Díomh go leir agus fáilteoireamh go gaibh. Is mise an tuilh Becky Way las uachtarán idirnáisiúnta na húscailse. Agus is cúis áthas dom fáilteoireamh go húscail na Gaillimhe an la speisialta seo. My name is Professor Becky Way, Vice President International in this university. And on behalf of the University of Galway, I want to extend a very warm welcome to you in this conferring ceremony. It is a special day for all of us in the university, and let me start by introducing you to the various people who are central to this ceremony. To my left is the President of University of Galway, Professor Kieran O'Hogarty, who presides over the ceremony. With him is Emer Tona, who will open and close the formal part of the ceremony. Behind me is Professor Rebecca Braun, Dean of the College of Arts, Social Sciences and Celtic Studies, Professor Geraint Howells, Dean of Business, Public Policy and Law, and Professor Walter Gear, Dean of the College of Science and Engineering, who will present candidates to the President. And we are also joined by colleagues from the colleges who have played their part in ensuring that you are here to be conferred today. I now hand over to the Student Union President, Mr. Sai Gajula, who will make a commencement address, after which Emer will open the formal proceedings in Latin.
Hi everyone, I'm Sai and I'm the President of Comhaltas na Maclean Ulster na Gaillimhe, University of Galway Students' Union. You all have achieved something that is not an ordinary feat. We gather here today to celebrate the moments we have shared on campus, relive the memories and look back on the moments that have shaped our university experience. Together, we have lived through an unexpected and yet an extraordinary time in the history of this university. And yet, you have succeeded in overcoming these challenges and have made it here today to celebrate the achievements of everyone in this room and, most importantly, yourself. Finally, as you complete this chapter for one last time in Ulster na Gaillimhe, University of Galway, I would like to say congratulations to all of you from the bottom of my heart, and whether you're leaving today forever or not, we'll always be there for you. Thank you.
Pre honorabilis praeses totaque universitas. Haec comitia universitaria hodie convocatus sunt, ut quidam homines ad gradus academicos admittantur. Eos easque presentabis Professor Walter Gear. Oh no, sorry. Rebecca Braun.
Pre honorabilis praeses totaque universitas. Doctor of Philosophy, PhD in Arts. Presento vobis hasse meas filias filiosquo meos, quas omnes sio tam moribus, quam doctrina habilis et idonius esse qui admittantur ad gradum doctoratus philosophiae. Itque tibi fide mea testor expondeo totique academiae.
Ego auctoritate mihi concessit, mutuo vos ad gradum doctoratus philosophiae.
Ashley Callaghan is awarded a PhD in English for research supervised by Professor Lionel Pilkington and Professor Sean Ryder on an analysis of selected 21st century novels about drought considered as literary responses to climate change. David Kanata is awarded a PhD in psychology for research supervised by Dr. Dennis O'Hora and Dr. Sam Redfern on an investigation of cultural effects on the estimation of personality from nonverbal behaviours. Mairead Casey is awarded a PhD in film and digital media for research supervised by Dr. Con Houlihan on demon possession and sexual violence in post-recession American horror. Michelle Judith Curran is awarded a PhD in geography for research supervised by Dr. Audrey Morley on the impact of Arctic warming on North Atlantic climate change. Gabrielle Fletcher is awarded a PhD in English for research supervised by Dr. Adrian Patterson on American media networks and gender narratives in Juna Barnes, Edith Wharton, and Gertrude Stein. Louise Foley is awarded a PhD in psychology for research supervised by Professor Gerard Malloy, Professor Andrew Murphy, and Dr. Lisa Hines on adherence to treatment in multimorbidity. Christopher John McCann is awarded a PhD in English for research supervised by Dr. Adrian Patterson on how 20th century Irish fiction critiques social hierarchies through music, song, and dance. Lara Margaret Mullins is awarded a PhD in health promotion for research supervised by Professor Margaret Hodgins, exploring the experiences and perspectives of both older people and home care workers to establish perceived factors impacting on the delivery of the home care service. Ezequiel Leopoldo Arturo Monge Allen is awarded a PhD in Gaeilge for research supervised by Professor Maureen Nigonica on the theology of sin and reconciliation among the 9th century Céilí Day, Ortala, and Terry Glass. Colette Margaret McKay is awarded a PhD in English for research supervised by Dr. Muireann O'Cinneide on disability and embodiment in the art and poetics of the Welsh modernist David Jones. Nicolette Susanna Warner is awarded a PhD in psychology for research supervised by Professor Anne-Marie Groark on hereditary cancer, namely the experiences and psychological implications of living with a BRCA1/2 alteration. Master of Science, Applied Behaviour Analysis. Presento vobis hanc meam filiam, quam sio tam moribus, quam doctrina habilem et edonium esseque admitator ad gradum magisterie scientiae, idque tibi fide mea tastor expondeo totique academiae.
Ego auctoritate mihi concessa mitto te ad gradum magisterie scientiae.
Natalie Prendergast. Professional Master of Education. Presento vobis hanc meam filiam, quam sio tam moribus, quam doctrina habilem et edonium, esseque admitantor ad gradum magisterii in professionalis in educatione. Idque tibi fide meo testor expondeo totique academiae.
Ego auctoritate mihi concessa mitto te ad gradum magisterii professionalis in educatione.
Ciara Stephanie Rudge. Postgraduate Diploma in Arts. Presento vobis hunc meum filium, quem sio tam moribus, quam doctrina habilem et edonium, esseque admitator ad diploma postbaccalaureatum in artibus. Idque tibi fide mea testor expondeo totique academiae.
Ego auctoritate mihi concessa mitto te ad diploma postbaccalaureatum in artibus.
Ronan Brian Powell. Postgraduate Diploma in Science, Applied Behaviour Analysis. Presento vobis hanc meam filiam, quam sio tam moribus, quam doctrina habilem et edonium, esseque admitator ad diploma postbaccalaureatum in scientia. Idque tibi fide mea testor expondeo totique academiae.
Ego auctoritate mihi concessa mitto te ad diploma postbaccalaureatum in scientia.
Stephanie Marie Moriarty. Diploma sa Gaeilge, level B. Presento vobis hanc meam filium que meum, quas omnes sio tam moribus, quam doctrina, habilis et idonius, esse qui admittator ad diploma in linguae hibernica, itque tibi fide mea testor expondeo, totique academiae.
Ego autoritatem mihi concessit, mitto vos a diploma in lingua hibernica.
Mandi Beatty. Andrew Keenan.
Pre oralamus praeses Tataque Universitas. College of Business, Public Policy and Law, Doctor of Philosophy, PhD. Presento vobis hasce meas filius filiosque meos, quos omnes sio tam moribus quam doctrina habilis et idionis, esse que admittantur ad gradum doctaris philosophia, idque tibi fede mea testo expondeo totique ad academia.
Ego autoritatem mihi concessit, mitto vos ad gradum doctoratus philosophiae.
Eddie de Jong Bassi is awarded a PhD in Accountancy and Finance for research supervised by Professor Emma Mulligan on an examination of the Nigerian Tax Administration with a focus on public value. Colin Kahi is awarded a PhD in Law for research supervised by Professor Eleanor Flynn and Dr. Yanis Fiala Butaro on exploring the role of national human rights institutions in amplifying the voice of disabled people. Sheila Donovan is awarded a PhD in Law for research supervised by Dr. Connor Healy on share renting and whether children should have a right to craft their own online identity. Deborah Morales is awarded a PhD in Management for research supervised by Dr. Josephine Igo and Professor Pamela Sharkey-Scott on subsidiary management behaviour and the mechanisms of managing subsidiaries in today's landscape. Abigail Recas is awarded a PhD in Law for research supervised by Dr. John Danaher on the right to access culture for persons with disabilities. Masroor Salakin is awarded a PhD in Law for research supervised by Dr. Ronan Kennedy on how to achieve environmental justice through a developed model of judicial proactivism and collaboration. Honours Bachelor of Commerce. Presento vobis hanc meam filiam quam sio tam moribus quam doctrina habilem et idoneam esse qua admittantur ad gradum baccalaureatis mercaturo honor cursa confector, idque tibi fede mea testo expondeo totique academia.
Ego autoritatem mihi concessit, mitto te ad gradum baccalaureatus mercatore honoro cursa confector.
Robin Commons. Master of Science in Business Analytics. Presento vobis hosce meos filios filiamque meam, quos omnis sio tam moribus quam doctrina habilis et idoneus esse qui admittantur ad gradum magisterii scientia, idque tibi fede mea testo expondeo totique academia.
Ego autoritatem mihi concessit, mitto te ad gradum magisteriae scientiae.
Jumoke Abbas Alessin Loye. Master of Science, International Marketing and Entrepreneurship, Daniel Keeley. Master of Science, Marketing Management, Jamie O'Sullivan Nolan. Master of Laws degree, Presento vobis hunc meum filium, quem sio tam moribus quam doctrina habilem et idoneum esse qui admitatur ad gradum magisterii in utroque jure tam civile quam canonico idque tibi fede mea testo expondeo totice academia.
Ego auctoritate mihi concessit, mitter te ad gradum magisterii in utroque jure tam civili quam canonico.
Dono rais.
Pre honorabilis praeses totaque universitas, Doctor of Philosophy, PhD in Science and Engineering. Presenta vobis hasce mias filiosque meos quos omnes sio tam moribus quam doctrina habiles et idoneos esse qui admittantur ad gradum doctoratus philosophiae ide tibi fide mea testo expondeo totique academiae.
Ego auctoritate mihi concessit, mitter vos ad gradum doctoratus philosophiae.
Mashari Al-Shamari is awarded a PhD in Electrical and Electronic Engineering for research supervised by Dr. Maeve Duffy on bidirectional inverters with improved light load efficiency for hybrid AC-DC distribution systems. Sultan Al-Zurani is awarded a PhD in Mathematics for research supervised by Dr. Tobias Rossman on explicit computations of ask zeta functions. Syl Byrne is awarded a PhD in chemistry for research supervised by Professor Paul Murphy on synthesis of celiac acids to block infections caused by pathogens such as MRSA or influenza. Claudia Cara Ortega is awarded a PhD in botany and plant science for research supervised by Professor Dagmar Stengel and Dr. Gerard Fleming on environmental and biological factors that determine the biochemical composition of ecologically and commercially important seaweeds. Kira Casaniga is awarded a PhD in biochemistry for research supervised by Professor Corrado Santocanale on how cells respond when challenged with novel anti-cancer drugs targeting the process of DNA replication. Kishore Das is awarded a PhD in statistics for research supervised by Professor John Newell on the analysis of method agreement studies with functional responses applied to elite sports. Erica D'Amelio is awarded a PhD in zoology for research supervised by Dr. Colin Lawton on the taxonomy and diversity of Irish tardigrada. Huang Duong is awarded a PhD in microbiology for research supervised by Dr. Thomas Barry on development of tests to detect the BCC, addressing a problem of the pharmaceutical industry. Nevenoy Guegan is awarded a PhD in physics for research supervised by Dr. Matt Redman on simulation of data from the European Southern Observatory ALMA telescope. Connor Hayes is awarded a PhD in information technology for research supervised by Dr. Patrick Mannion, Dr. Enda Howley, and Dr. Diedrich M. Roykers on multi-objective reinforcement learning and planning for the expected scalarized returns. Aoife Hill is awarded a PhD in biomedical engineering for research supervised by Dr. William Ronan on mathematical material models of biodegradable polymers. Roisin Hill is awarded a PhD in applied mathematics for research supervised by Dr. Neil Madden on the development, implementation and validation of algorithms to automatically generate layer-adapted meshes for fluid flow problems. Congratulations, that was a mother and daughter. I think that's the first time we've ever done that. Godwin James is awarded a PhD in Botany and Plant Science for research supervised by Dr. Sara Farona on UBP5, a novel interactor of PRC proteins that regulate chromatin structure and plant development. Kavita Jayakumar is awarded a PhD in chemistry for research supervised by Professor Donald Leach on mediated glucose biosensors for applications in continuous glucose monitoring. Niamh Keogh is awarded a PhD in mechanical engineering for research supervised by Dr. Rory Monaghan on understanding the engineering challenges of injecting renewable biomethane into the natural gas grid. Faisal Khan is awarded a PhD in electrical and electronic engineering for research supervised by Professor Peter Corcoran on neural algorithms for facial depth analysis for in-cabin automotive applications. Bazim Mahbouba is awarded a PhD in computer science for research supervised by Dr. Jamie Martin Serrano Orozco and Dr. Michael Lang on his scientific contributions for detecting security threats using machine learning methods for Internet of Things systems. Sergio Martinez is awarded a PhD in chemistry for research supervised by Professor Henry Curran on the thermochemistry and modeling of combustion systems. Fiat Meany is awarded a PhD in chemistry for research supervised by Professor Paul Murphy on investigations in anomerization, a reaction in organic chemistry with potential in future pharmaceutical production. Zhizhong Meng is awarded a PhD in civil engineering for research supervised by Professor Jinmin Zhan on performance and membrane fouling of the electrodialysis technology for nutrient recovery from digestates. Ahmed Mohammed is awarded a PhD in civil engineering for research supervised by Professor Mark Healy and Dr. Alma Siggins on the treatment of agricultural dairy soiled water by modified hybrid constructed wetlands and sand filters. David O'Leary is awarded a PhD in Earth and Ocean Science for research supervised by Dr. Eve Daly on mapping soil using neural network machine learning and remotely sensed data, a study in peat. Vaibhav Patel is awarded a PhD in chemistry for research supervised by Professor Henry Curran on the combustion of natural gas and practical fuels for engine operation. Mattia Pavani is awarded a PhD in biochemistry for research supervised by Professor Corrado Santocanale and Dr. Andrea Ciliberto on how cells deal with microtubules depolymerization to uncover mechanisms driving antimitotic drug resistance. Cristiano Petrini is awarded a PhD in bioinformatics for research supervised by Professor Kevin Sullivan and Dr. Francesco Ferrari on epigenomics approaches to characterize alterations in disease. Teresa Reyes is awarded a PhD in biochemistry for research supervised by Professor Corrado Santocanale and Dr. Dana Branzai on the molecular mechanisms of DNA damage tolerance using genetics and biochemical analysis. Michelle Rocker is awarded a PhD in physics for research supervised by Dr. Alexander Goncharov on aplanatic refractive field correctors to expand the field of view of astronomical two-mirror telescopes. Kerry Ryan is awarded a PhD in microbiology for research supervised by Dr. Alexandra de Menezes on microbial ecology of multi-species grasslands. Dana Saleh is awarded a PhD in mathematics for research supervised by Dr. Rachel Quinlan on distinguishing covering groups of elementary abelian 2 groups. Kenneth Sandoval is awarded a PhD in zoology for research supervised by Professor Grace McCormack and Professor Olivier Thomas on using genomes to find genes responsible for anti-cancer and other bioactivity found in marine sponges. Ghulam Sarwar is awarded a PhD in information technology for research supervised by Dr. Colin O'Riordan and Professor John Newell on the use of passage-level retrieval techniques for information retrieval tasks. Wen Zhuang Shi is awarded a PhD in civil engineering for research supervised by Professor Mark Heady on the mineral fertilizer equivalents of dairy processing waste and derived Strubius products. Yu Hu Tu is awarded a PhD in mechanical engineering for research supervised by Dr. Noel Harrison and Professor Sean Lean on computational methods for additive manufactured metal micromechanics characterization. Annika Verbruggen is awarded a PhD in biomedical engineering for research supervised by Professor Alicia McNamara on mechanobiological origins of osteolysis during bone metastasis. Bachelor of Science. Presento vobis miam filiam filiamque miam, quam doctrina habiles et idoneos esse qui admittantur ad gradum baccalaureatus in scientiae, ique tibi fide mea testor expondeo totique academiae.
Ego tartata mihi concessit, nirvos ad gradum baccalaureatus in scientiae.
Kelechi Tanya Bencori. Stephen Rankin. Masters of Applied Science and Enterprise Systems. Presento vobis hunc meum filium, quem sio tam moribus, quam doctrina abilem et idoneum esse qui admittantur ad gradum magisteriae, scientiae applicanda. Ique tibi fide mea testor expondeo totique academiae.
Ego tartata mihi concessit, nito te ad gradum magisterii in scientia applicanda.
Michael O'Rourke. Master of Engineering Science, degree by research part-time. Presenta vobis hosce meos filios quos omnos sio tam moribus quam doctrina habiles et idoneos esse qui admittantur ad gradum magisteriae e scientiae ingenieria. Ique tibi fide mea testor expondeo totique academiae.
Ego tartata mihi concessa, admittavos ad gradum magisterii in scientiae ingenieria.
Joe Graham. Dakdoy Ngoyen. Master of Science. Presento vobis hasce meas filias filiosque meos, quos omnes sio tam moribus quam doctrina habiles et idoneos esse qui admittantur ad gradum magisteriae scientiae, ique tibi fide mea testor expondeo totique academiae.
Ego tartata mihi concessit, nirvos ad gradum magisteriae scientiae.
Simona Cacciaputi. Danny Hines. Cormac James Gallagher. Adam Jacobson. Daniel Shamavu. Master of Science in Bioinnovation, Alan Carney. Enda Connaughton. Risa Egerter. Kieran Fahy. Patrick McGreal. Cathy O'Boyle. Master of Science in Software Design and Development, Stream 1, Weilu Guo. Master of Science in Sustainable Resource Management, Policy and Practice, Ranjita Taura. Postgraduate Diploma in Computer Science, Artificial Intelligence, full-time. Presento vobis hosce, mios filios, quos omnos sio tam moribus, quam doctrina abiles et idonios esse, qui admittantur ad diploma post-baccalaureatum in scientiae, ique tibi fide mea testor expandeo totique academiae.
Ego auctoritate mihi concessa, admitto vos a diploma post-baccalaureatum in scientia.
Mayank Dwivedi. Hassan Samin Syed.
Pre honorabilis praeses, ceremoniis rit confectus, finem creaso facias hejus convocationis universitariae.
Thank you very much, Gavin Markov, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We're particularly pleased and proud to have this day and to celebrate with you. I was just thinking as we were having all the research degrees of an event I was at last week in Groningen. So we're part of an alliance of European universities called In Light. And it's, if you want to think of the names, it's all G's and B's. So there's Galway, Groningen, Göttingen and Ghent. There's Bratislava, Bordeaux, the Basque Country and Bern. And then there's two others, Uppsala and Tartu. And we had the mid-year meeting in Groningen last week. And one of the panels I was speaking at, there was a business person who went before me, or somebody who's involved in innovation and technology. It's funny how business people always think they can give universities advice, but never think the other way around. But he had this particular question, which was aimed to be provocative, which was that universities spend too much time or focus too much on teaching and research, which means that they're not relevant to policymakers and industry. And of course, that was designed to be provocative. And I thought about, at the time, the Dutch philosopher Erasmus. You may know of Erasmus. He was a philosopher in Dutch philosopher in the Reformation times, travelled Europe, had a particular influence on the King of Spain, and became subsequently one of the Holy Roman Emperors. And also, it's hard to measure, but there's one measure that between 10 and 20% of books published in that time were attributed to Erasmus. So he was a very influential philosopher, and today the Erasmus program and the Erasmus Plus program in Europe is named after him. There's a Dutch university, the Erasmus University, so centuries later we remember Erasmus. But Erasmus never lost his faith, as he kept his Catholic faith. He never lost his interest in philosophy or his depth in philosophy. Nobody ever thought at the time Erasmus spending too much time on that philosophy crack. He should actually be influencing industry and policymakers. What we do is teaching and research, or research and teaching as universities. It is fundamental to the raison d'etre of universities. And if we change that, in centuries' time, people will look back and say, what happened to those universities centuries old that they went with the flow? And I likened or told the story of Erasmus as a way of saying that research is fundamental to our understanding of ourselves. Like Erasmus, maybe we should communicate it better, or we should be more involved in public debate, but nonetheless we do it from a position of integrity that research is what we do. And I likened universities to an island in a river where the flows of the day go past us and we influence them and they influence us, but we still hold firm. We're not flotsam and jetsam, which goes with the flow and which disappears as a consequence. And today, I think we're today recognising, for the most part, research that you've done. And I would encourage you always to remember Erasmus, who stuck to his philosophy, to his métier, who nonetheless pushed the boundaries. So a lot of his, he's known for his innovations, his new ways of looking at the world, but nonetheless always maintained his interest in philosophy, his faith, his belief in what he believed in himself. There was an integrity there, and communicated it well. And then there was a second question, which was a very interesting one, came from the audience, was around do we spend enough on what the person called fundamental research? And sometimes we have this dichotomy or this distinction between fundamental and other research, which is sometimes artificial. But I was reminded with that question of a book I'm currently reading, which is on great explorers or travellers, great journeys through history or in history. And Vasco da Gama, who, as you know, was the first to go around the Cape of Good Hope around South Africa, as it is now. There was a man called Diaz went before him. And Diaz went around the Cape of Good Hope and found that the coast had changed shape and the winds were different, and went home. But Vasco da Gama relied on Diaz's measurement, Diaz's experience. And that was the fundamental research that Vasco da Gama used in order to bring him around the Cape of Good Hope, that we remember him and we remember Diaz today. And the point I would make from that is that all research is important, that some research goes early, some comes late, but nonetheless all research is important. And that's something that we're at the moment trying to make the case for in public debate, that there's, I think, a sense or an agreement abroad that education is important. And around September every year, around this time with Leaving Cert, then around September with CAO every year, the people get excited and the media get interested in universities and in the points race and whether people come to university or not. And then sometimes that debate then recedes. And two things we've been told when we debate with public policy in this context is that, first of all, they don't necessarily think they think of education and not research. And to us, it's really important to think that these are two different things and one depends on the other. So again, research is the fundamental basis for education and what we teach. So we learn as an institution through research, and then we teach and we learn with you through that. And the second thing that we're told is that research, and in fact universities, don't come up on the doorstep. When politicians go around, they're never asked about what about universities. They're asked about healthcare and housing and climate action, quite rightly. And the point we would make there is that research, universities, education provides the answer to all of those. So when you look at the themes of today, and people, you're coming up with all your different the citations and the summaries of your research that were called out. Universities and you in your research give solutions to today's problems, solutions to housing, to health, to climate action, to those issues that matter. And that's something we should continue to say and promote, because it is true that without research we would labour in the everyday, in the middle of the river, with no anchor and no foundation, no evidence on which to base policy. And going back to the original question of whether universities spend, quote, too much time on teaching and research, so they're not relevant to industry and policymakers, the other thing I took issue with in that statement was, where was civic society? And we are, as you know, as you may know, we're ranked 34th in the world for impact on the Sustainable Development Goals, 10th in Europe. So we have an impact here on things that matter, not just in climate action, which matters hugely, but all those other elements that makes for good development and sustainable development. Health and well-being, life below sea, and civic society more generally. And that is because we engage with civic society. And it's really important that in the context of all the debate around research and around how we must contribute to, as universities, to public debate, that we're not limited to industry and to policymakers. That there are those who don't feel at home in universities, those that don't feel welcome here, that sometimes that don't find a place for themselves here, that also deserve debate and deserve to be included in the debate and the arguments and the discussion. And that's part of what we're looking to do as the University of Galway. One of our values is that we are open, and that means that we're open to discussion, we're open to dissent, we're open to debate and dialogue, but we're also open to others who sometimes don't feel welcome here either. And that, I think, is a really important, I hope, part of how you will also contribute in your research, that you will find those places that sometimes have no voice, and you'll also give them voice through your research, your evidence, your engagement. So thank you all for your work here, for journeying with us today, and for bringing us to this day. I'm often reminded on days like this of the words of Seamus Heaney, who said to his students when he was teaching in Dublin, "We are here to develop your capacities, your destinies are your own." I think particularly today, for many of you, it's been a journey where we're developing different capacities. It's been sometimes lonely, I'm sure, sometimes very challenging, sometimes difficult. But I hope that we have, through that, either directly or indirectly, explicitly or implicitly, developed your capacities to do research, to contribute to public debate, to, like Vasco da Gama and Diaz and others, explore beyond the horizon and see what's on the other side. And we commend you for that. But now your destinies are your own. And we wish you the very best in that. So, Gorgordas Lividig, Gramina Mahagav, and we give a round of applause to our graduates. And we also know, as an institution, as individuals here in the University of Galway, that our students are carried very often by others with them on this journey. First of all, by those who are here with us in the hall, those online. We must remember those also with us in spirit. We know our students today are graduates of good times and bad, happy times and sad, and that they rely on others very often to carry them through this journey. On behalf of them and our university community, we thank you too, in the hall, online and in spirit, for supporting our students today, our graduates. Gramina Mahagav, thank you. And finally, I take the opportunity to welcome our colleagues and to welcome so many of them here. It's great to see such a great turnout. We're very grateful to you. We have had challenging times in this university, particularly with COVID, and all through all that time we relied on our colleagues, academics, professional colleagues and technicians and others in order to carry this university through. And I know as supervisors, many of them have turned up today to be with you on this last, but hopefully not last day on this journey, but not on your journey, hopefully, with this university. And so on your own behalf, on behalf of myself as Uachtar na Hullscoile, on behalf of the Colúd and the Hullscoile, thank you all very much. And finally, just to come back to Erasmus, a man who kept to his philosophy, extended the horizons as all good explorers, all good discoverers, all researchers did, but also communicated that well and effectively. Think of Erasmus every now and again, a man with integrity, but a man who nonetheless made a difference, and we remember him centuries later. We've developed your capacities, your destinies are your own. Gramina Mahagav, thank you.
My congratulations to you all as well. That concludes the conferring ceremony, but before you go to the Human Biology building, which is outside and to the right, to enjoy some well-deserved refreshment, I would ask you to join me in thanking those people whose hard work and professionalism ensure that a ceremony such as this runs smoothly So in particular, Tara Leyden, Fionnuala Nihulan and the Conferring team. In addition, let me thank staff from the Buildings Office, audiovisual staff from the Centre for Excellence in Learning and Teaching, the Marketing and Communications Office, Conference Office, agus an Charvish Astruhorn. To you, the graduates, I have just one last thing to say. Go now and make the most of the qualification you've gained and the life ahead of you. Gorama agwiv gole.